The drama surrounding these moments isn't just about pain or punishment. It's about how even the most disciplined, conditioned athletes in the world can suddenly look like they've forgotten how to walk. One second they're professionals operating on muscle memory and instinct, and the next they're wobbling like a drunk uncle at a wedding who's had one dance too many. These are the moments fans rewind, laugh at, debate, and never forget, not out of disrespect, but because they reveal how brutally human boxing truly is. December 15th, 2016, Los Angeles, California. The atmosphere was ordinary enough. Another night of fights, another undercard battle that most fans would forget by morning. Lucius Johnson and Oleg Zubeno had been trading leather through the early rounds, each man testing the other's resolve. But by round 4, Johnson had clearly decided he was done clocking overtime. When the opening appeared, he uncorked a right hook so violent it looked less like a punch and more like a personal vendetta against physics itself. Zubeno's reaction was instant and dramatic. His knees folded as if someone had unplugged him mid-sentence, and he dropped to the canvas in a pose that looked suspiciously like a marriage proposal to the ring floor. For a moment, there was confusion, not from the crowd, but from Zubeno's own body. He tried to stand, determined to prove he was still in the fight, but his legs had already filed for divorce. They wobbled, slid, and flat out refused to cooperate, turning his recovery into a slow-motion comedy of errors. The will was there. The balance was not. Years earlier, on April 23, 2000, in Nagoya, Japan, boxing fans witnessed another unforgettable breakdown of coordination. Yokai Mars stepped into the ring to challenge WBA flyweight champion Hideki Todaka, hoping to dethrone a champion on foreign soil. From the opening bell, though, it was clear this wasn't going to be a technical chess match. It was chaos, a human game of ping-pong where momentum shifted violently and often. By the final seconds of round 8, Todaka found his opening and delivered a right hand that landed with surgical cruelty. Mars' knees buckled, as if they suddenly remembered a prior engagement elsewhere. He collapsed awkwardly, arms dangling, his body resembling a marionette whose strings had been cut mid-performance. Somehow, through sheer stubbornness and heart, he managed to continue. But boxing has a way of collecting debts. By round 11, Todaka came back for what felt like an unnecessary sequel. A relentless barrage of punches drove Mars backward into the ropes, and suddenly the ring became a dance floor. Arms flailed wildly, legs crossed and uncrossed without permission, and the entire sequence looked like an audition tape for Dancing with the Stars, Knockout Edition. It was brutal, absurd, and unforgettable all at once. Then there was the moment when even the calmest fighters were reminded of their mortality. Saul Canelo Alvarez versus Austin Trout. Trout had built his reputation on discipline and movement, a southpaw who treated footwork like an art form. Early on, he stuck to the script. Jab, step, clean, professional, controlled. It was boxing etiquette at its finest. But timing has a way of rewriting narratives. When Canelo finally pulled the trigger, he did it with perfect precision. A right hand detonated on Trout's chin, erasing his rhythm as if someone slammed the backspace key on his nervous system. In an instant, balance disappeared. Trout didn't fall immediately, which somehow made it worse. His body stayed upright while his legs betrayed him, swaying and scrambling to understand what had just happened. It was the exact moment when a fighter realizes he's human after all. Few rivalries, however, carry the emotional baggage of unfinished business. Roy Jones Jr. versus Montel Griffin was one of those rare cases where controversy demanded a sequel. Their first fight had ended in chaos, Jones disqualified for punching Griffin while he was down. It left fans divided and Jones furious. Knowing the ending didn't reflect reality, the rematch didn't last long enough to generate debate. From the opening bell, Jones fought like a man late for dinner and unwilling to negotiate. Just 1 minute in, he launched a left uppercut that looked like it was powered by pure indignation. Griffin crumpled instantly, hitting the canvas hard as the crowd erupted. There was no confusion this time, no ambiguity. Jones didn't just settle unfinished business, he obliterated it. Sometimes, though it's the unexpected fighters who steal the show. In 2009, Uganda's Shahif Bagher didn't just defeat Mexico's Ralpho Armenta, he entertained the world. By round 2 of their scheduled 4-round bout, Bagher unleashed a combination so sharp it scrambled Armenta's internal GPS. Suddenly, Armenta was moving back and forth like a man trying to find an exit in a pitch-black room. He beat the referee's count, which technically counts as an achievement, but his legs had clearly developed ideas of their own. Moments later, another knockdown followed, and Armenta's corner made the smartest decision of the night. They waved it off, saving him from further punishment and possibly from inventing a brand new dance, style under pressure. Not every collapse comes from being dominated early. Sometimes confidence itself becomes part of the setup. One fighter came out in round 1 with swagger, hands flying, grin wide, body language screaming that the night would be easy. He rolled shots, snapped counters, and looked untouchable. Then round 2 happened. In the final seconds, perfectly timed right hand landed like someone had pulled the plug on a machine mid-operation. The referee instructed him to take a knee, and he obeyed, at least temporarily. When he tried to rise, his legs rebelled instantly. Wobbling and flapping as if he'd just stepped off the world's worst roller coaster, he collapsed again, blessing boxing fans with what many still consider the most legendary chicken dance in the sport's history. It was absurd, mesmerizing, and impossible to look away from. Even legends contribute to these moments. Emmanuel Lucero learned that lesson the hard way in 2003 when he stepped into the ring with Manny Pacquiao for the IBF Super Bantamweight title. The Olympic Auditorium in Los Angeles buzzed with anticipation, but from the opening exchanges, it became clear Lucero had underestimated something crucial: Pacquiao's speed by round 3. Manny delivered a right-left combination so clean, it could have been featured in a training manual or a cooking show titled How to Scramble Eggs, Human Edition. Lucero's legs instantly turned into overcooked spaghetti. The referee, seeing the inevitable outcome forming in real time, made the merciful decision to wave it off before Pacquiao could serve dessert. Not all iconic wobbles come from champions or title fights. In 2013, Russian fighter Vladimir Mishev gave fans one of the strangest sequences ever captured inside a ring. Late in his bout with Georgy Chelv, Mishev was exhausted, clinging to survival. When Chelv landed a left-hand flush on the side of his head, reality warped instantly. What followed didn't look like boxing. It looked like performance art. Mishev began moving in ways that defied explanation, limbs flailing in a spontaneous dance routine no one had choreographed. Seconds later, gravity reasserted its authority, and he collapsed to the canvas. The Funky Chicken had officially entered boxing folklore that same year. Neil Dawson defended his WBO International Cruiserweight title against Chris Keane, but no one remembers the scorecards. In round 2, Dawson landed a short left hook that disconnected Keane's brain from his legs entirely. Keane popped back up quickly, eager to prove his toughness, but his legs were operating on an entirely different timetable. They wandered, wobbled, threatened mutiny until the bell mercifully rang. Then there are moments so perfectly timed, they feel scripted. When Powell and Bundridge exchanged shots, they landed simultaneously, both fighters crashing to the canvas in perfect harmony. It looked less like a fight and more like Olympic synchronized diving. The crowd barely had time to process the absurdity before Bundridge found himself on the receiving end of another brutal left hand. This time, there was no confusion. He entered full Funky Chicken mode, wings flapping, feet freelancing, balance nowhere to be found. He tried twice to stand, but his legs had already filed for early retirement. The referee stepped in, doing the only humane thing possible and calling it a night. These moments are funny, yes, but they're also revealing. They strip boxing down to its rawest truth. No matter how trained, how tough, how experienced a fighter is, the human body has limits. When those limits are crossed, instinct takes over, coordination disappears, and the result becomes something between tragedy and comedy. That's why fans never forget these clips. Not because they mock the fighters, but because they remind us how unforgiving the sport is. One punch can turn confidence into confusion, footwork into freestyle, and a championship dream into a viral highlight that lives forever. And that's how legendary moments are born in boxing, not always through clean knockouts, but through the unforgettable dances that follow them. Now it's your turn. Which of these moments made you laugh the hardest or rewind the fastest? Which chicken dance is permanently burned into your memory? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button if you enjoyed the ride, and subscribe for more unforgettable boxing moments. Share this with a friend who loves the sport, because more explosive, ridiculous, and legendary scenes are always on the way.